Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmidty, Swanee and Clarkey visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised. All right, how are we?
Great.
Yeah, I think
recovering. We're all very flat.
Whew, we're just, we're doing it back to back because I'm going overseas in November. Yoo-hoo! And we need to create enough content for our 10 listeners to keep them through that period. So,
Are you going to Derby?
No, I'm not going to Derby. I might drive through it, but I don't think so, no.
Oh, I knew which prison he was in. I was going to say going there you could visit. I wonder what it is.
Only so I could,
You'll know the name of it.
Molotov cocktail.
Wakefield. You've heard of that one?
Oh, Wakefield. Yeah, I know where Wakefield is, yeah.
Where is it? I don't know where it is, but I've heard of it.
She up north.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm going to hazard a guess that we have no news from the last 5 minutes of recovering from that. Apart from we've all got a very awful taste in our mouths after that one. For those who have just joined us and may not have listened before, the previous episode, Carla horrified us. So I suppose we should introduce ourselves. I'm Schmidty.
I'm Swanee.
And I'm Clarkey. And together we are...
Trial by Wine. And what are we drinking?
Well, I didn't really even make a dent on my budget soda.
So you're talking a lot, yeah.
Exactly. So now I'm going to try and get some down. You okay?
I thought you were going to say, so I'm going to give it up and just go to vodka.
It'd be a good idea. And you, Clarkey, what are you on?
I'm having last week's
Port Noir. Yeah.
And when I say last week's, there's literally this much left. So it's an endangered species. But then I thought, do we have another one? And I think not, because it's a school night and work is hectic at the moment. So after that, I'm going on to Magnesium.
Oh, gross.
Yes, it's delicious. It's lemon flavoured, but it'll help me sleep. Oh,
what is it?
Oh, it's delicious.
I take capsules.
It's magnesium. It's like an effervescent.
Sleep.
I just have capsules.
No, this is like an effervescent one. And it bubbles up.
I was going to say, I've never had it in a drink. I think I've only had it as a...
Don't.
It's like lemon.
It's not. It's gross. I am
nice.
Still on the mango chutneys, and the
How many did you get through?
4, and so I'm on my 5th now. But that'll slow.
How can you drink that much? It's very impressive. I'd be weeing constantly.
Well, I've just done one. How
can you drink that much?
No, but like volume, I mean. I don't care about the alcohol.
Yeah,
By the end of this episode, I'll probably be ready to wet myself. That is usually the case. Although I just went upstairs and weirdly, Tony said, "Oh, I bought you a device." And I said, "Oh, yeah." He's bought me a Shiwi.
Shiwi?
What?
He has. Well,
why?
Oh, no.
Because he's insane.
Oh, not for any reason in particular, because he's insane.
Oh, I don't know. I was doing something. I don't know. I was driving back from somewhere and I rushed in the house and said, I need a wee before I wet myself. And he decided that it would be a great idea for me to have a she-wee in the car so I could just deal with that. I'm like, when I'm driving down a highway, I'm not about to pull my pants down and stick a device in. And
She-wee the fuck out of everything.
I said, was that from Temu? Because if that's the case, we're banning Temu. And he said, no, it's from Amazon. I was like, oh, okay, it's the operator, not the actual
Let him just show you the receipt.
I don't care. I'm like, thanks, love, thinking, never going to use it, thanks. It's not actually, I don't think it's Shiwi by brand. I think it's just some kind of similar device. Yeah. Would you like me to tell you a story?
Can I have a couple of clues as to what it's about?
Yeah. Depends.
Is it a good one?
Yeah. This unfortunately, because we do a crime podcast, the crime does involve murder, which is very unfortunate.
It's not a happy story, is it?
No, it's not a happy story. No, sorry.
Well, let's do it anyway.
Okay, all right. So, as you know, I'm currently in the throes of rehearsing for Legally Blonde the musical, which opens in 9 days from when we record this. If you're not aware of the storyline, basically, girl gets underestimated, Girl gets dumped. Girl gets into Harvard to chase her ex-boyfriend and learns that she is deserving of so much more and gets new guy and a law degree and is basically totally awesome. So, what does that have to do with my story?
Glad you asked.
Yeah, much of Legally Blonde is set in the hallowed halls of Harvard. So I thought I'd cover a story set in a university, though in this story there's no singing or dancing and absolutely terrible things do happen. So buckle up. Here are my sources. A rather extraordinary article in the NewYorker.com by Patrick Radin Keefe, Murderpedia, Wikipedia, crimetraveller.org, NewYorkTimes.com and WHNT.com. I struggled with how to tell this story in as much as the chronology is quite tricky, so please bear with me.
Let me just clean my whiteboard so I can map it all out.
We start at a point in time, we're going to go backwards and we're going to jump around a little bit, I'm afraid. So like Elle Woods, who worked to prove to Harvard that her 4.0 average in fashion merchandising and an 175 on her LSATs were grounds to admit her to law, Amy Bishop worked hard in her academic field of neurobiology. She liked to tell everyone that she was academically brilliant, although allegedly her work at Harvard wasn't up there with the best, though she did get a degree, which some suggest she probably shouldn't have. And they refer to
When
that
you
as...
say wasn't up there with the best, not even second best or third best.
No, and they refer to it as a scandal number one.
Oh.
Which is funny because it's really, in the grand scheme of everything I'm about to tell you, that's really not a major
Imagine
scandal.
a university giving a degree to someone who doesn't deserve it.
I know. My husband has an
What
associate
nonsense.
professor's degree or something, and he's never even been to university. What a load of old shit.
P. Diddy had to give his back this year to Howard.
Sorry,
he was
what?
given an honor. Puff Daddy or whatever, and P. Diddy was given an honorary at Howard University, which is like the famous black uni in the US. And they've said no more. Turns out you don't align with our
values.
Yeah.
Because you're a human trafficking. Anyway, I've been following that a little bit, and mostly around Justin Bieber, which I think is interesting. So, however, she did get that degree, and that degree meant she was able to work at the University of Alabama in 2003, which put her on a tenure track. Not as amazing as Harvard, but it afforded her and her husband Jim some earning stability, as Jim was, according to Amy, too smart to work.
Oh.
And I must remember that for all the times I think someone's husband is a no-account river fella, they're just too smart to work.
Like old mate from last week.
Indeed, yes.
Mick Philpott was just too smart to work.
Mick Philpott.
He certainly thought so.
Yeah. What was her name that was too pretty as well? I reckon she was...
Janelle.
Janelle, yes.
Janelle was just too pretty, yeah. Amy and Jim had 4 children, Lily, Thea, Phaedra and Seth. And by all accounts, Amy was a loving, if protective mother who made them eat organic food, learn instruments and wanted to ensure they were academically challenged.
I bet.
Jim Anderson, Amy's husband, the one who was too smart to work.
Yeah.
It wasn't academically challenged.
He actually was quite intelligent, but I think he was just fucking lazy. He was collaborating with her on inventing an automated cell incubator, which sounds pretty amazing. And I read a little bit on that, and it was meant to revolutionize the way things... Well, you grow cells out of it, right? So if you're thinking about stem cells, and this is back in 2000, what did I say? 2003? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm with you now. I just wasn't sure what it was.
I'm assuming you're you're growing things like stem cells. It just would accelerate how people could determine biological factors and changes, or lots of stuff. I think it sounds good. Anyway, apparently someone raised like $1 million to turn it from a prototype into something, and then other people thought it was just expensive, and so I don't think it went anywhere.
What happened to the $1 million?
Oh, that's a side story. I think...
Can we share
Probably nothing. However, as she was caught up with that project, she did fail to publish much, which is a requirement if you're trying to get a tenure at a university. And for those of you who don't know, the definition of tenure, according to Wikipedia, is a category of academic appointment existing in some countries. A tenured post is an indefinite academic appointment that can be terminated only for cause or under extraordinary circumstances such as financial exigency or program discontinuation. Tenure is a means of defending the principle of academic freedom, which holds that it is beneficial for society in the long run if scholars are free to hold and examine a variety of views. So basically, it's a really good thing to get and would set you up for lifetime employment.
All right, I didn't know that. When you say some countries, do we have that in Australia? And the people who normally get tenure are professors?
We might not, actually. It's a good question. I felt like we did, but we might not, because all of the people I know who've worked as professors in universities,
of which I know none yet.
Well, I've got a few because, I work in education.
Oh, right, fair enough.
Well, not in my world.
Do not have tenure. In August 2013, we didn't have tenure, so...
No, we don't have it, no.
That's a hard no.
That's a no from me. Yeah, no, because there are lots of people who were long-term professors who got made redundant, especially after COVID when the international market went away because they weren't allowed to come into the country.
However, this one says it is possible for a lecturer in Australia and New Zealand to be on a permanent contract and complete their probation while remaining at level B, thus attaining the equivalent of tenure. Very complicated. I'm not academic enough to understand it. It's all very hard.
I don't know. And that could be different by state as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so also, apart from not doing any of the publishing requirements or most of the publishing requirements and the research and whatever to actually build to get your tenure, Amy wasn't always the most encouraging of professors to her students. She would tell some of them that they were intellectually inferior to the students at Harvard, chuck some of them out of the lab, or annoy some of them enough that they would leave and get transferred, which from an economic perspective wasn't great for the university coffers. Remember, universities charge quite a lot for you to go there. So if you've got a professor who is telling you that you're too freaking dumb and also that she just doesn't like you, you got to get out of her class, and others are like, we don't like her, I'm guessing that her participation rates weren't particularly high. And I can tell you from my perspective, that does matter. So by 2009, the university had decided that Amy wasn't a great fit and they would not offer her tenure. One of the committee members going so far as to say that he was concerned she was crazy. He told the Chronicle of Higher Education that he first worried about her mental health. And this is a quote from him, 5 minutes after I met her.
I like this guy.
She appealed the decision, of course, even getting a lawyer involved, but it didn't do any good and the university did not change their position. This led Amy to be pretty upset, and people noticed that she withdrew from her friends and family around this time, though she told Jim, her husband, she was really worried about the impact of not getting tenure on her career and reputation as a scientist. She also did some weird things like publishing an article in the International Journal of General Medicine naming her co-authors Jim, Lily, Thea and Phaedra. Not sure if Seth was too young, but he wasn't named, which is also pretty odd in academic circles. Just my kids. My kids and my husband, they're my co-authors.
Co-authored.
And the man who said that he thought that, after 5 minutes of meeting her, thought she was a nutbag, he also said that he'd witnessed her behaviour at times where she would just, in meetings, she'd just go off on this loony tangent that made no sense. And so she was displaying odd behaviour for quite some time. So on February the 12th, 2010, Amy went to a department meeting at 3 p.m. and there were 13 professors and staff members at that meeting. The meeting was in a windowless room on the third floor of the Shelby Centre for Science and Technology. I feel like I've been in those meetings many a time. Normally Amy would be mouthing off in the meetings because she was quite vocal, probably going off on random tangents that other people thought were a bit odd. But on this occasion, she was very quiet. Now, it's quite possible she was quiet because the department chair, Gopi Padilla, had put an agenda around which was for the next semester. And by this time, this is February, next semester, she's not going to have a job anymore. So it's all a bit irrelevant to her. And frankly, she didn't even need to be there. I ain't bothered, mate. Yeah, I ain't bothered. This bothered? Me bothered? No. Amy had sat next to Gopi Padilla, next to the door, and the way I read it is it's like she blocked the way out of the room. So
Right.
there's 13 people in this room. I think it's quite a small room. Let's
Yeah.
imagine it's got a conference table or something in the middle of it, and there's one exit, and she and Gopi
She's
are right
blocking it.
next to it. Yeah, pretty much. Across the table from her was Deborah Moriarty, who was sort of friends with Amy. When Amy first started back at the university, she and Deborah would talk about their families, and Deborah had recently become a grandmother. And so, they were colleagues, they would chat, they were sort of friendly. I wouldn't say they were besties, but they were kind of friendly. As it turns out, Deborah had actually voted against Amy's tenure, and Amy actually knew that, but things were pretty cordial between them. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Out for your bowl. Yeah, exactly.
But on the face of it, Amy pretended or seemed to be okay about it.
Yep.
Yeah. Cheers. Thanks, love.
Deborah in the
And
back.
I would like to point out that everyone in this room that is present in this room, not all of them voted against her. Some of them voted for her tenure.
Okay.
On hearing that her tenure is over and discussions that she'd had, or no tenure rather, and having discussions with Deborah, she had told Deborah that she felt like this decision meant that her life was over.
Oh.
But Deborah's like, oh, don't worry, you'll get a job somewhere else. Just not here, because you don't fit. You're a square peg in a round hole.
Off your phone.
I don't think she said that, but that's how I... So the meeting goes on, and at around 3:50, because I'm sure it was so boring, and there's no windows, I would have been asleep at this point, but anyway, it started to wrap up. Amy stood up, pulled a 9mm Ruger semi-automatic pistol from her handbag and shot Gopi Padilla in the head. Then she shot Stephanie Monticchiolo and Adrielle Johnson.
Oh, my God.
It's so quick.
What?
It's like bang,
Bang,
Bang, bang, bang.
bang. Yeah.
If she's been lining them up all meeting.
Yeah, which one of you I'm going to shoot first? Deborah recalled being shocked and not really registering what was happening until she saw Amy turn the gun on Maria Raglan Davis and shot her. So
Is that 4?
Is that
That's 4.
3.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's 4. It's 4. Gopi, Padilla, Stephanie Monticchiolo, and Adrielle Johnson, and now Maria Raglan Davis. So it's 4. Deborah dives under the table and grabs Amy's legs, screaming, Amy, don't do this. Think of my daughter. Think of my grandson. Which, I'm not really sure Amy gives a shit about Deborah's grandson or daughter.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, good point.
I get where she's coming from, but maybe think of your own children, think of your husband, think of your family.
Let me just
Doesn't matter.
unshoot
In the
these other
moment,
bullets.
that's what she said. And everyone else who actually survives this did say that Moriarty's actions probably saved them all. So not having quite the desired effect, Amy turned the gun then on Deborah and fired.
Oh!
I missed because she grabbed her legs.
No, she didn't miss. But she tried to, but the gun jammed.
Oh.
Oh,
So lucky
brilliant. Love
Deborah
that.
crawled out of the room, and apparently I remember reading it was like she looked at it like she was perplexed and a bit pissed off. She was like, what's wrong with this gun kind of thing. So Deborah crawls out of the room and into the hall. So can you imagine this? She's come out.
No one's jumped on her.
It's so fast. It's so fast. Deborah's the first person to physically jump on her, and then nearly gets shot, and then just skedaddles out of the room. And then Amy follows her, repeatedly trying to shoot her.
Oh!
Yeah.
But then when she bought the gun, she went, I want one that's going to shoot more than 5 in a row. Like, I've got a big job ahead of me. I knew it. I knew it was a shit gun. I should have got the better one.
Well, she didn't buy it. We can get onto that later. But anyway, the same problem with the gun. It's still jamming, right? So Amy's now in the corridor following Deborah, trying to shoot her. Deborah realizes that the gun's not working. She gets up from her crawling position.
Mm-hmm.
Amy then pauses to fix the gun, to unjam it. And while she does that, Deborah runs back into the conference room with the victims and everyone else who's literally shell-shocked. And her and another colleague slam the door shut and barricade the door so that Amy can't come in and shoot more of them. And as I kept saying, this was so fast, this whole thing where three people were shot fatally and 3 other people were shot, they survive, took less than a minute, the whole thing. Amy then goes to the bathroom and rinses the gun off and chucks it and her jacket, which is blood spattered, in the bin. And then she goes into a lab and she says to a student, "Can I borrow your phone, please?" And she rings her husband, Jim. And she says to her husband, Jim, according to what I read, "I'm done," and hangs up. Now, Jim quite regularly picked her up, so I don't know if that was a normal thing for her to say, like,
finished
"I'm done.
working.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
finished
done.
working. Come get me."
I thought you meant she was going to off herself.
No, I'm done. As in, I read that as
I've finished for the day.
I finished my mission, is what I read.
Mhm.
Anyway, as I say, I'm not really sure who says that's what she said, but whatever. So then she headed off through the loading dock and at the back of the Shelby Centre. So she is clearly, in my mind, trying to go to a low-key destination to get Jim to pick her up so no one sees her. However, the police were already on the scene and she was nabbed by a deputy. She appeared to have no recollection of the incident, saying, "It didn't happen. There's no way. No, it never happened. It didn't. No. And then when she was asked about the deaths of her colleagues, she said, "There's no way. They're still alive." Of course, a school shooting, whilst far too regular in the US at this time, and now, did get plenty of press coverage. And the next morning, here we go, get ready for this, the Huntsville Sheriff's Department got a call from the Chief of Police in Braintree, Massachusetts. I'm pausing for you to respond to Braintree.
I'm not saying anything. I know, right?
It's the worst freaking name for a town. Braintree. So, Braintree, Massachusetts. Mr. Paul Frazier, who said to the police at the Huntsville Sheriff's Department, "The woman you have in custody, I thought you'd want to know. She shot and killed her brother back in 1986.
Oh, my God. Oh, my goodness.
And that's the end of my story.
Did she get sentenced to tenure?
It was a joke. I'm just kidding. Swanee looked at me with like, "What do you mean that's the end?" Oh, but wait, there's more.
You meant she didn't really shoot her brother?
No, that couldn't have happened. He's still alive.
So who was Amy Bishop, and what's this about her killing her brother, I hear you ask?
Right. It's exactly what my head asked.
Amy is the daughter of Judy and Sam Bishop. Judy's family were from New Hampshire and Sam's were from Greece. He was born Sotia Papazoglos
Nailed it.
to immigrant parents in Somerville. So obviously his parents had come over. He changed his name, though, to Sam Bishop. Judy was outgoing and funny, and Sam was quiet and somewhat reserved. And when they described Judy and Sam, it made me think of my mum and dad, where mum was verbose and very opinionated and, involved in council stuff and school stuff and all these things, and dad was just hardworking and just more quiet. They met at art college and in 1964 moved to Iowa City, where Sam was doing graduate work in fine art at the University of Iowa. They had Amy in 1965, and after Sam got a job teaching in the art department at Northeastern University, they relocated back to Massachusetts, specifically Braintree.
I've never heard of Northeastern. I've only ever heard of Northwestern. There you go. Didn't know that
In
was
1968. So they went to Braintree in 1968, and their son, Seth, was born that year.
Oh.
Yes, Seth.
The second Seth? Or was that in the last
He's the
story?
This is the first Seth.
First Seth, and then she calls one of her children Seth.
She called her youngest son Seth.
Sorry, yes, that's what I meant. Yeah, was that the second Seth we've heard of in this story?
So according to people who knew them at the time, Amy and Seth were academic kids. And by that I mean nerds. They did music, violin, which is pretty actually tricky, so it's quite an accomplishment. And they were both quite into science. Seth liked to take things apart and work out how they worked. Like my older brother, who my sister still, I don't think, has forgiven him for taking apart some doll she got at Christmas and it never worked again. And he was about 4 at the time or 6 at the time, and she was like 5. And she was like, he had the same obsession with working out how things work.
I thought you were going to say it was because she also shot your brother, but
No, but someone cut his finger off.
There's no record of that.
That's another story. My dad cut his finger off. Don't worry, the Royal Children's Hospital stitched it right back on.
Deliberately?
No.
You do that one more time.
It was an accident. Seth liked to take and not quite off, just like a lot off. Anyway. So Seth liked to take things apart.
Just doling out the horrors bit by bit.
Oh, I know.
Just
Enough.
a family accident. It's no big deal. And work out how they work. So, and Amy, suffering from asthma from a young age and spending a bit of time in hospitals because she would have, asthma. Yeah.
Asthma.
She wanted to work out how to cure asthma. Asthma sounds like my asthma, not your asthma, my asthma. It's just not right. Anyway. Braintree was described as a jock town. Basically, you have that age-old...
Why jock? Why jock town?
It's in sporty.
But why
they're going to
Braintree
be nerdy.
then?
Oh, they're going to be nerdy.
No, the kids are nerdy.
Yeah.
The point is, right, we have this age-old dichotomy of the athletic
Fraudulent.
kids. No, there's no fraud. You've just got some kids who are arty and artsy and want to do theatre and science, and other kids who are all about the football team.
None of them have a place in Braintree. Braintree's for super nerds who are just there to
because it's called Braintree.
Grow their brains.
Yeah, no.
100%.
Really not. Like, sounds like 98%
That's
of them.
what I'm saying about fraudulent. Yeah.
Right, I get it now. Okay, sorry. My mistake.
Fuck you, Braintree. You're a joke.
Misnomer.
Misnomer.
Yeah. Amy was a bit of a loner because she was a bit of a nerd in a jock town, and Seth
Braintree.
Seth also being, quite nerdy in his own way, but he was very personable and he was more inclined to engage with people. So he had more friends, put it that way.
Can I just ask, did the parents move to Braintree because they had nerdy kids and they wanted them to have a good education?
No, they moved to Braintree because
created this situation.
Sam got a job at the university teaching art in the art department. The siblings got on well enough, and no doubt they had the normal rivalries and fights of brother and sister. But Judy, Sam and Amy all say they all loved one another. In 1985, after discovering their house had been burgled while they'd been at Sam's dad's funeral and wake, Sam decided to buy a shotgun for safety. Now, Amy and Judy were not very happy about this at all, but he brought it into the house, he kept it unloaded in the bedroom cupboard with the ammo on a dresser, like physically away from where it is. And then a year and a bit later, in 1986, Amy shot her brother Seth.
She made the connection, thought, oh gosh, there's some ammunition. There's a gun. I'll put the two together. Let's see what happens.
Or as some might say,
just a scientific
he gave
experiment.
her the shits that one time. He just...
I'll give it a shot.
Where are my clothes? And she said, I've had enough of this.
You ask me that one more time and I'm going to blow your head off.
Yeah. So the story goes, she was allegedly at home on her own in that morning. And because of this burglary that had happened in it beforehand, she got quite spooked being home alone. And she got the gun and she loaded it with 3 cartridges. Then she tried to unload it and actually shot a hole through the wall in her bedroom. That did happen. She shot a hole in it was the wall in the dresser.
Yeah. Practice.
Went downstairs to the kitchen where her mother and brother had allegedly just come in from getting groceries, and she said, I need some help unloading this gun. Somehow, as she swung the gun around to get help from Seth, it went off, shooting him in the left side of his chest. And all of this happened right in front of their mother, Judy. Police were called and Amy wasn't there. She'd run off with a gun and ended up in a car sales lot, I think it was, or a mechanic's anyway, telling the guys there to give her a car. Now, I heard...
How old was she at this point?
21. I heard on a podcast that she said she was running from an abusive husband, but either way, the guys ran off because they were like, fucking hell, crazy lady with a gun. Yeah. And the police showed up, and one policeman stood in front of her saying, put the gun down, and, and she wouldn't put the gun down. And then another policeman snuck up behind her with his gun drawn and yelled, put the gun down, put the gun down. And so she puts the gun down. And so I think there was something in that behaviour that suggested that there could have been a charge related to that. So just keep that in your mind. Whether it's resisting arrest or having a deadly firearm, I don't know. Not releasing it or whatever. I can't remember what it was.
Not putting the gun down when you were asked
when you're
nicely.
Told to, that's right. The weird thing is she gets arrested by those 2 police officers, taken off to the police station at Braintree. Not long after that, like probably less than 24 hours or very short period of time, though, in these processes, she gets released. As her mother and Amy, in their statements, had said it was an accident. The whole thing's an accident. Now, at this point, I still struggle, having read lots of things, to understand how a person can shoot your brother and just get released. Because surely, even if it's an accident, there's manslaughter, murder in the second degree. There are multiple charges that normally, in my understanding, would be laid against a person in this example, in this situation, right?
Yeah.
but Mum said it was an accident.
So did
Mum's
she,
word is
and so did
law
Mum's
Dad.
in
law.
Braintree.
He died. Seth died, right?
Oh,
So
Oh, I think you've kept that from us, haven't you? Did I
he
miss
got
that?
shot in the
your
chest.
left side. Yeah.
Yeah, but old mate got stabbed 27 times last time and
No.
didn't die, so
Seth, by the way, didn't
Just-
die immediately. He was rushed to hospital. He was pronounced dead at hospital. I said earlier, they rang up and said she killed her brother back in 1986. I'm not quite sure why it was so hard for you to...
I think you said shot. I think you said shot her brother.
I'll just go back up on my notes and see what that says. The woman you have in custody, I thought you want to know, she shot and killed her brother back in 1986.
Oh, wow.
Might
I
want to
missed
get
the
our
and killed bit.
listening ears back on. Yeah. She gets released, right? And life goes on for that family, albeit in a very difficult way. Getting past it was very hard for the family, and Amy carried a great deal of guilt over Seth's death, always maintaining it was an accident. As it was in the 80s, of course, she didn't get any therapy or support in that respect. And her father eventually tells her the best way to get over it is to move on with your life and make something of it. So she threw herself into her studies and Jesus, and later married Jim Anderson, who'd been part of a Dungeons and Dragons group she was in. And all I've got to say, people, is water finds its own level. Now, back in 2010, so we're going forward in time. We've been in the timey-wimey machine back to 1986. Now we're coming back forward. The Braintree police chief advised the Huntsville sheriff of the shooting back in 86, even though it was recorded as an accident. And even though he'd done that, there had been whispers of a cover-up. Now, Judy had been on the town council, and I'm calling it that. I kept reading the town meeting or something, and I'm pretty sure they meant a town council, and had dealings with the then chief police, a man called John Vincent Polio. According to some of the police at the time, who would have been in subordinate roles, Polio had told them it was an accident, and that was that, though that was refuted by Polio's wife, who at the time was his secretary, not his wife at that point, and Polio himself. So a whole bunch of people come out in 2010 and say, that shooting back in 86, you need to investigate it. They didn't investigate it back in 86. They are making out that the police chief was in cahoots with Judy in as much as they were matey or something like that. And he was influenced because no, there was no suggestion. Thank you, Swanee, for your gesticulations. There was no suggestion they were sleeping together. But more that there was a small town mentality, and everyone was going to be more comfortable with the idea that this was an accident. Neighbours and friends of the family were like, look, I've always accepted it's an accident. To be something else is much more horrendous, so we've always just said, whatever, right? It's an accident. Let's just move on. Polio himself said that some of this stuff from the police was nonsense. But the background on John Vincent Polio was that he was a bit of a hard ass, I think, and sort of set himself up as a kind of J. Edgar Hoover type. He wasn't well liked by the policing staff at the time, and he had a real mission to clean up police corruption, which is really interesting when you think about the idea that the police then in 2010 are coming out saying, he told us to ignore this. He told us it was an accident. Don't do anything about it. This is a man who was getting rid of, what do they call it, ticketing. If you got a parking ticket or a speeding fine, if you were mates with a policeman, they would just write it off and go, don't worry about it, right? So I can't remember what it was called. It was ticket something. Anyway, so this guy was actually low-level police corruption and really trying to pull up the level of the police. Also, at the same time, though, he was in his early 60s and he was lobbying quite hard to increase the age of the mandatory retirement for police beyond 65. So it's not to say that this man didn't necessarily get behind advocacy that was going to suit him personally. Let's put it that way. According to statements, there'd been a bit of an argument that morning between Sam, the dad, and Amy. And Sam had gone off to do some Christmas shopping afterwards. He said it was an inconsequential domestic argument about kids leaving their shit around because I think he'd stood on something on the landing or something and he'd cracked the shits that they need to put their shit away.
Piece of Lego.
Something like that, yeah.
At 21, I doubt it.
Oh, and I can't remember the difference between them.
How old
3
was
years.
Seth? Yeah.
3 years. So
Okay.
he's 17. Oh, no,
Okay.
18, sorry. He's saying it was no big deal. Like it was just a sort of standard, put your shit away, kids, before I crack the shits. Now, the writer of the New Yorker article explored the idea that Amy might have intended to shoot her father and had killed Seth accidentally. But the parents and Amy entirely refute this. The gun in question was known on very rare occasions to fire accidentally when dropped or hit, and Sam said she may have hit it on a countertop when she swung it around. Someone else that I read said that for the gun to have gone off like that, someone, most likely in this instance Amy, would have had to have had her finger on the trigger, and there would have needed to be enough force applied that the trigger was depressed, and it was 5 pounds of pressure. And that could happen either by you pulling it back yourself from the perspective of firing it, or someone trying to remove the gun from you and pulling it away from you. And if your finger is on it. Yeah. In fairness, Seth could have grabbed the gun off her completely, innocently, to try and unload it, pulled it, and it could have been an accident. We don't really know what happened in 1986. The mum says it was all an accident, just went off. The mum also not testified, because this is all a police statement, that Amy's hand was on the barrel of the gun and the stock of the gun, nowhere near the trigger. So it's all a bit weird, right? That's the point. As it wasn't treated as murder, the investigation was very light, really wasn't one, and there's no evidence or even much in the way of reports to ascertain what really happened. But the police in Braintree were pushing the idea that it was deliberate, particularly in 2010. Mm-hmm. After Amy was arrested for the university shootings, they reopened the case, and I'll get to more of that in a moment. Amy also wrote fictional novels, though her work is unpublished. Now, the author of the New Yorker article drew parallels to the characters in the books. One was haunted by an accidental killing of a kid in their youth. But given people will often write what they know, I'm not sure it's actually that relevant. Do you know what I mean? So she's had a bunch of traumatic things happen in her life. She's written some fictional stories about them. I think he was drawing too many correlations to the fictional stories there's no evidence. We can't prove any of that, right? So it's saying, oh, she wrote it. It's like, what was the one we did the other day?
Yeah, the bloke who wrote the murder.
Yeah, it's like that. The guy who wrote the murder after he wrote the murder, and all the evidence was not circumstantial, but it was very closely aligned. There's a bit of this in it, but this stuff was written, I believe, before, well, it was after Seth died, but before the shootings in the Alabama. And I really don't think the Alabama shootings are related to any of this. She did leave an impression on her literary group, though, which I did find amusing. She goes into this, she's writing these books and she writes poetry, and she absolutely thinks that she's intellectually more superior to everyone around her. And she goes into the literary groups and someone's like, oh, I've written this story and this is my plot line. And she's like, kill it, it's rubbish. And then she's offensive. You've got to get this sense of she's an absolute archetypal fucking Karen, is what I get from this woman. She has just decided she's the super brain, and that's why it was funny that people from Harvard were like, scandal number one, her degree shouldn't even been given to her. She is not that smart, but she thinks she's really, really smart. She's in this literary group and they all find her, let's face it, a bit offensive. So she tells everyone that she's related to this famous author. Also that she's got a literary agent. So she's bigging herself up the whole time in her, little fiction class, which is really just, for me, suggesting that she's probably really insecure about a lot of stuff. Okay, so her brother's death wasn't her only brush with the law prior to murdering people in the university. She also assaulted a woman in 2002 in an international house of pancakes, otherwise known as IHOP, punching this woman in the head for taking the last booster seat in the place and being a total Karen, telling them that she was Dr. Amy Bishop. Don't you know who I am? The charges were dropped later, the mother probably being embarrassed by the whole thing. So she's not been charged for the death of her brother. She's not been charged for punching this woman in the head. In 1993, Amy and her husband were suspected in the case of sending a pipe bomb to her postdoctoral supervisor, who she didn't like. They'd had some kind of argument. He received a suspect package, and in 1993, the Unabomber was still active, so that's quite, a thing. So he opened it very carefully. I mean, frankly, I wouldn't have even opened it, but anyway, he opened it very carefully and narrowly avoided triggering the detonator. Again, no charges were ever brought against Amy and her husband Jim, and it was never solved as to who sent it. So, of course, more info comes out about Amy, her killing her brother, punching a lady in the head, and possibly sending a pipe bomb. And so people start talking about her past behaviour. Amy has a significant temper, and her court-appointed lawyer, Roy Miller, said, "Something is wrong with this lady." Her history speaks for itself. And that's what you want, hey? You want your lawyer...
Her lawyer said that, yeah.
...to be telling everyone, you're a bit off, you're a bit on the odd side.
Was she paying her lawyer?
No, court-appointed.
Oh, yeah. Not...
Yeah. Roy Miller, top job. Here's to Roy Miller. I salute you, sir. So, initially, Amy pleaded not guilty on the grounds of insanity, which I think is actually notoriously hard to prove one way or the other. The death penalty was a possibility with the charge being murder. And I'm talking now, about the Alabama shooting. So in 2012, the spouse of one of the murdered researchers wrote to the judge saying that whilst the family had suffered enormously, nothing would be gained from taking another life. Amy's lawyer then offered to change the plea to guilty to get the death penalty off the table. The prosecutor contacted the surviving victims and none of them wanted a death penalty, so the prosecution didn't seek it. Amy then changed her plea to guilty. Now, they did charge her with her brother's murder and she attempted suicide in jail about 2 days later. She was very close to successful, but was found in time and treated and recovered. Then the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office said they were not going to seek extradition because she's in Massachusetts, I think, at this point, and they're somewhere else, because the family had moved. She was not living in the same state as where her brother had been killed. But they basically said the penalty we would seek, because they didn't have the death penalty, it would have just been life. They said it's already in place because she got a life sentence for her murdering everyone. So then Crazy Amy said she wanted to go to trial for her brother's death.
Crazy Amy.
Yeah.
Not Fat Amy, Crazy Amy.
She's Crazy Amy. As she said it was an accident and that by not going to trial implied that she did murder him. She wanted her day in court. "I want the truth to come out. I want that for me, my parents, for closure. However, I don't believe that they've actually pursued a trial against her." Now, even though her deal was to plead guilty and waive her rights to an appeal, she did appeal in February 2013 on the grounds that she hadn't been informed of what she was waiving by pleading guilty and some other stuff that I don't care about. But the Court of Criminal Appeals of Alabama rejected the appeal, so suck shit, Amy Bishop. I think her mum at some point said, look, she's just a brilliant... In terms of why did she kill these people at the university... And remember I said some of them had voted for her to get tenure and some hadn't, and yet she seemed to be indiscriminately killing people. Her mum was like, oh, she's just a brilliant girl who just snapped, and that's what happened there. And to this day, whether they are recounting what truly happened to Seth or they've crafted a narrative that they're able to live with, as far as they're concerned, Amy accidentally shot Seth, and it was a terrible tragedy. I feel terribly sorry for the victims' families, those who survived and lived with the trauma of that day, and Amy's children, whose mother is now put away for life, and Amy's parents for losing not only a son, but also their daughter. Of Amy, she's now serving a life sentence at Tutwiler prison in Wetumpka, and part of me thinks she'll probably be the top dog by now.
Is that near Braintree?
No, I don't know where it is. Wetumpka. Map lady can look that up.
I'd like to see a street fight between Braintree and Wetumpka.
And the reason I say she'll probably be...
At least a dance-off.
Top dog is that even back in 2012, 2013, she was having punch-ups in jail. Someone beat her down with a cafeteria tray, but because she's a smart ass, and she's she goes around saying, "Oh, my IQ is diminishing because of the company I keep now." She's just a fuckwit. And I do think that she's probably going to lord it over people because she's that kind of personality. And that is the case of Amy Bishop.
The best thing about Amy Bishop, and I know she's weird, is her haircut. That is something else.
I went out of my way to not talk about the page boy because I do think it's quite irrelevant. But
Little
okay.
Lord Fauntleroy. Now that I've seen it,
It's a page boy haircut. One thing I will say is I think it's relatively well documented and determined that she does suffer from a significant mental illness.
What is it?
Well, she says she's got schizophrenia, but the jury's a little out on that, but she's got mental illness. And when you look at her behaviour over the past, well, she was 45, I think, or 41, in her 40s, when she shot these people, so she's older than that now.
Yeah.
You don't fucking walk into work and shoot everyone unless you're a bit mental, right?
Yeah.
I don't know whether she shot Seth on purpose or not. I would say that she probably, if she didn't then, she certainly developed mental illness after that.
Mm. Yeah, that's true.
And there's lots of lead up to this. Like the man who says, after 5 minutes of meeting her, I knew she was crazy. No one's done anything about that. No one's sort of stepped in, helped her in any way.
Her own husband? No.
Her own husband, I think, is almost as nuts. I'm not sure. I just get the feeling that if he was complicit with the pipe bombing thing, and I'm not sure that he was, but, just in cases.
They're weirdos, I think.
I think they're weirdos.
So when you said that she said, I'm done, that implies that he might have known what was coming.
Put it this way. I left it out.
Finished. Job's done.
So,
all right, love, I'll come pick you up.
Yeah.
He
didn't get them all, but I got half of them.
He took her to a firing range and taught her how to shoot the gun. The gun was a friend of his who gave it to him illegally so that he could get it relatively quickly. I think it was planned.
He's in on it.
Why did he ask for it?
There was no reason given that I read.
Mm.
Basically, the friend gave it to him, which you're not supposed to because you're supposed to go through all the checks and balances to ensure you're not a lunatic. And so you're not meant to give your guns away to people. And then he took her to a shooting range to teach her to shoot. Now, she was 40-something. There was no incident that suggested that she needed to learn to shoot to defend herself.
Mm.
It's, to your point, Swanee, weirdos. I think... Weirdos. The threat of the tenure issue and I don't know what they thought would come of killing everyone, but it was just... I feel
just angry.
Yeah, I feel like it's a shared psychopathy or a shared issue. He's not faced any charges. He's just out there. So God knows what's happened to Jim Anderson.
Guess he's with the kids.
They've grown up. I think the oldest girl was already at university when this happened.
Mm-hmm.
So by now the kids will be grown up. Yep. Oh, sorry. Seth died. Seth, the son.
Oh,
Seth too.
Seth too was killed in an entirely unrelated case. Shot by someone else. Totally unrelated to this. Yeah.
Could that be more American if you tried? Jeepers. Well, there you go. I don't warm to Amy, I'll be honest. She's not giving me much.
Yeah. I feel like the pre-story is just a distraction to just what a shit person she was, like... I know that there's a lot of shit that's happened in the past, but none of that
I agree.
justifies going in and shooting half your...
No.
Like the rest of it was a little bit blah blah. The shooting of her brother, maybe that was an accident, maybe it wasn't. Don't know. Don't have enough info on it. So happy to put that to the side.
But I think that the police department made a big fuss about it, and I don't know what agenda they were trying to drive. But I agree with you. It's
but
like
I think
if you
in the
didn't
80s,
deal with it back in the 80s, then shut up about it now, right?
Right. Yeah. I think so.
Well, yes and no.
I think. Yeah. No. I think that's right. But I think that back in the 80s, there were certainly, more accidents that would have happened where people would go, that's an acceptable accident given the safety culture, as opposed to, God, how did we not, why wasn't the gun locked up in a cabinet like we would have here? That sort of thing. So I think I'm happy to kind of go, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, don't know. But going into work and shooting people, that's just a shit act. There's nothing that justifies that. Plenty of people have mental health issues. Yeah, it wasn't like she had
Nothing justifies it. Nothing justifies it.
right. Yeah. I guess that's what I just can't see how she got to that, why she got to that. It's just guilty as, and yeah.
There was something I read where she'd
Ugh.
said to someone that she went in to have a meeting with like the dean or someone important, and they said they're not available, and then she saw them under escort with security leaving. This is, I think, sometime before the shooting. And she said to someone, what do I think I'm going to do? Come in and shoot them? Well, maybe. And they would be right if that's what they thought. So the point I'm trying to make with that is...
She's clever.
No, she was threatening. People were already scared of her. If that's true...
Oh, yeah, and what I mean is she's bang on about it. It's exactly what people are thinking. Your
the university
perception is
needed
amazing.
to have reported her before that, and they didn't. I'm not saying the university is at fault, and hindsight is 2020.
The fact that I just think she needs to be locked up. Because I think that, if she sat there for so long quietly through the meeting as well.
Stewing, planning.
Yeah. Then just bang, bang, bang,
It's
bang.
so awful.
Oh, hang on, let me try and
Brought the
fix
gun.
this. Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember anything.
It's
Bullshit,
that-
you don't.
Don't want to.
I know it's going to be controversial, but it's just that classic American tale, isn't it?
Ages old as time.
Nut bag
What's a
for
learning-
the win.
It's
What's a
sad.
learning institution without a shooting?
But when the
awful.
teachers are doing it, that's very different.
Yeah, true. Normally it's a disgruntled
Not
child.
Students, not
What?
really the...
Student.
What the university should have had is security guards with guns who could protect everyone from
They probably did still
people
have that, I
with
would
guns.
imagine. It is in...
It's in a meeting room
Isn't that
and
big?
everyone's minding their own business. Why would anyone expect that you need a security? It was over
But
in a
isn't
minute.
that the
they would have
argument
had-
they use?
They would have had security.
We just need more guns to fix the problem.
But also in 2010, I would have thought, I remember seeing, what was the name of that film with, I could be wrong on this, Michelle Pfeiffer?
Bowling for Columbine.
No, Michelle Pfeiffer, where she was in the rough school.
Catwoman.
No, she was working in the rough school. And, it was all like,
Tequila Sunrise.
Gangster's Paradise.
Jesus, you idiots.
A
No,
Gangster's
I
Paradise.
think
It is the song from that
that's the
movie,
song
isn't
from
it?
it. Yeah, that's the song from it.
Yeah. I know the movie.
I'm sure they had like metal detectors in that. So how the faculty is allowed to walk through without going through the same security measures? In 2010, it's not actually the university's fault. Apart from they should have sacked her a lot earlier if they she thought she was a nutbag.
Bag.
Agreed.
So,
Yep.
sentencing? Any thoughts, or just lock her up forever and throw away the key?
Yeah, no parole.
Yeah, well, she might need to spend a bit of
Maybe
time
yeah.
with old nurse. What was it, Ratchet?
Ratchet.
Yeah.
One
I feel like we could maybe put her into a different prison with all of our female criminals from past episodes.
Wiggers.
No!
Right?
Yeah, actually, Long's not here.
Yeah,
What else?
they
Joanna
can all just go and
Dennehy?
batshit the
Yeah.
crazy the fuck out of each other.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's all right. I mean, I think that is what prison is for a lot of people, isn't it?
What is it?
Yeah,
They
but
just batshit crazy out of each other.
Chava. Oh, I
the
think
fuck
so.
out of each other, yeah.
Scary, scary.
I feel like Wiggers are sort of lipping us out for sure.
Should give her a smack. All right, so we'll sentence her to a world where all of the
Wiggers World.
Wiggers world. All right.
It's
Don't
be like
say
Wayne's World, only very different.
Is it imperative that you bring her up every episode?
Only to see
You know
your
that I'm
reaction.
totally triggered by. I know what you pair are playing at.
Triggered by Wiggers.
Mean beans.
Wiggers triggered.
Frankly, and I'm not looking for a competition, but I really do think that Joanna Dennehy is more dangerous than Wiggers.
Yeah, me too.
All right, well, thanks for joining me on that one. I actually quite enjoyed it. That sounds terrible. I enjoyed the research of that. And if you have time to read the article that I talked about from The New Yorker, highly recommend it. Lots more in it. The journalist spent a lot of time interviewing various people and getting different perspectives. So if you're interested, go right ahead, knock yourself out. It's great. And on that note, as we say every week, miss you already.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website www.trialbywine.com to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from Pixabay.com.